Election 2013 from Market Square Shopping Centre. This is Geelong's 93.9 BayFM.
Hello, welcome back again. Mark Hyland here, and on the panel with us today, BayFM News Director Rob McLennan, and from the Geelong Weekly Review, Elizabeth O'Neill. We have the candidates for Corangamite, the seat of Corangamite, with us at Market Square Shopping Centre, and we're on till about 1 o'clock. And if you're in the audience or thinking of coming down, we will be taking written questions from the floor, and hopefully we'll be able to get to them a bit later in the forum. BayFM from the Geelong Weekly Review, Elizabeth O'Neill.
Now, the Addy reported today that 33.3% of the electorate are still undecided of who to vote for. Does this mean that you're all failing to inspire the electorate? Sarah, what do you think of that?
That's a really good question, and I think that's very important for people to understand that this is no lay-down misère. This is the most marginal seat in the country. It's a very important election. We think it's the most important election in a generation. There are undecided voters out there. I'm meeting them every day. But what we are focusing on is getting Geelong and getting this region back on track. We've seen a terrible failure from Labor with job losses in particular. People are very concerned about their job. They're very concerned about the cost of living. And our focus is on really standing up for Geelong. And as a Geelong girl myself, I grew up here. I love this town. I love this region. It would be an absolute honour for me to be elected so I could be a very strong and effective voice for the people of this region.
Sarah, before we move across and put that to Darren, what I'd like to ask you is that 33%, a whole third of people who haven't made up their mind a day and a half before the election, there's a sense out there that people are just not sure about Tony Abbott. Some of his policies, from what I've seen of you in the past, some of his policies don't even sit well with some of the attitudes you've expressed, years ago in your previous life as a journalist. Are you worried about that people are just not quite there with Tony Abbott?
Rob, I think there's certainly a great deal of despair about Kevin Rudd because we know what happened when he was last the Prime Minister.
Yeah, I know that, but what about Tony Abbott?
But in terms of the coalition, we are very proudly talking about our policies, our future. Tony Abbott will be a wonderful Prime Minister. I think more and more people are seeing him as a Prime Minister. I'm getting fantastic feedback. That's all I can say, Rob. I've been on the polling booths for the last 2 weeks and people are very supportive. So the feedback that I'm getting is that they can see that Tony will be leading a strong and united team. And what people are looking for, Rob, is competent government that they can trust, government that won't let them down, that won't riddle with them with broken promises. And I guess that's one of the really big issues for Geelong, is that we were told there'd be no carbon tax. And the carbon tax has been terrible for families and manufacturing. And what we want and what we need is a government that's competent, united, and a government we can trust.
Darren, are you concerned about the lack of inspiration that seems to be coming from this campaign in this electorate? 33% is a lot of people not to make up their mind at this late stage, isn't it?
Well, that's what we've been saying. It's a very, very close election, but I think we've run a very positive campaign. We've committed $25 million to the Great Ocean Road, Rob, which is a wonderful commitment for our region. Tourism is responsible for $2.1 billion towards our economy. The Great Ocean Road is the centrepiece of that. We're upgrading and investing in the infrastructure for the future, and I think people are really appreciating our very positive plan on infrastructure, but most importantly on jobs.
We will get the independence view as well of this in just a moment, but Darren Cheeseman, member for Corangamite.
Well, thank you. And look, I think it's fairly normal for people to be making their minds up in the last few days of an election campaign. It's certainly been my experience in both 2007 and 2010. I think when people really start to focus in on the really local issues that are important to them, whether they want to have penalty rates in their workplaces, whether they want to have job security, and when they start focusing on those real bread and butter issues, I think that's when people will determine who they're going to support at the election. We know Tony Abbott believes in work choices. People will be thinking about that. I think people will be making their decision on the basis of that sort of thing in the next few days.
Adrian Whitehead, Independent.
Look, I think one of the reasons we've got the above 30% people undecided has just been a very uninspiring campaign. And one of the positive things I think have come out of this election is the fact that independents and micro parties are getting out there, and then hopefully Australians will are starting to break away from the concept that the two major parties represent their interests. And whether you're from the right or the left, it doesn't matter. It's been fantastic to see the amount of interest and small parties and independents running.
Buddy Rojek, independent as well. Your thoughts on lack of inspiration, is there?
I just want everybody to know that I'm fully self-funded thanks to Citibank credit card. I have to win, so that's why I'm going out so hard with my trailers. You've probably seen them going around, the yellow ones. They were built by me, by someone in Australia, so it's Australian-made trailers. I just want to respond also to the immigration matter. My grandmother was prisoner of war, Nazi concentration camp, 6 years, and for her service to Hitler, she got $800 compensation. She told me, 92 years old, that these people need to come here legally. Now, I agree with the Greens policy. We need to not only force Indonesia and Thailand to accept the United Nations Convention on Human Rights, but if they don't, I implore people, do not travel to these countries on your holiday.
Okay, thanks, Buddy. Lloyd Davies from the Greens.
Yeah, it's clear that people are disappointed with both of the old parties because it's becoming apparent that they're just hungry for power and not actually listen to the concerns of the community. When I'm talking to people, when I door knock, they're very, very interested in what the Greens have to say. They're passionate about getting dentistry covered under Medicare, so every Australian can go to the dentist, present their Medicare card and have their bills covered.
Okay, there's an issue that came up in yesterday's forum, and that was same-sex marriage. It's going to come up and has come up over and over during the campaign. We got some interesting responses to it yesterday. The question that I put to the Liberal candidate yesterday, and I'd put to you as well, Sarah, why can we not have a conscience vote on the part of the Liberal Party? The Labor Party said it. If the Liberal Party is truly representing what its supporters, the voters who vote for it want, why not put it in the hands of the people such as yourself, if you're elected, to come in and tell the Parliament what your voters want?
Rob, I think many Liberals are looking at this issue with a great deal of compassion. What Tony Abbott has made clear, we're going to the election with the policy that there should be no change to the Marriage Act. However, Tony has made it clear that this policy will be referred to the party room, and this issue will be up for review post the election. So if I'm elected, I will look forward to consulting with my constituents on what I think is a really important issue for many, many people.
Will you be pushing for the amendment, Sarah?
Look, what I think is important, I'm not going to get ahead of myself, but if I am elected, certainly this issue is going to be up for review. I think it's really important that when you are exercising a conscience vote that you consult with people widely. I know this is something that affects a lot of people, and that's what I'll be doing if I'm elected, to consult with people.
And what are people saying in the electorate then? Are people saying that they'd like you to go in and amend the Act?
There's a variety of views, and I think, as I said, many people feel very passionate about it, but certainly that's something that I'll be looking at and consulting very widely if I am elected.
I'd like to ask Jayden from the Sex Party, what are your thoughts on the approach of the two major parties to this issue?
They're called rights for a reason. Marriage is a right, a civil right for heterosexual couples. As a gay man myself, I'm sick of being told that I'm not equal, that I can't express my love to whomever I'd like to, whoever I choose, without the ear of government. People do forget that legalising same-sex marriage will create jobs as well within the wedding industry, florists, caterers, venue hire. It's win-win for everybody. Not only can you share my joy with me, but you may also get economic payoff at the end of it.
Are you happy with Kevin Rudd's approach? He's promised within 100 days that he'd put it to a conscience vote. Is that enough?
It's not enough. He needs to change the party platform to fully support same-sex marriage, in my opinion. To put legislation into Parliament isn't enough. Say it's there, vote on it. If the Liberals don't plan on allowing a conscience vote, it's not going to get across the floor through the House. It needs to be pushed a little bit harder for what is a right, should be treated as a right.
Darren, isn't it a cop-out to say we'll put it to a conscience vote? You know that the opposition is not going to, this is assuming if the Labor Party wins the election, you know that the opposition is not going to support it, it's not going to get up. Isn't this just an easy point to score? Yeah.
Thank you. Look, I mean, our political party, we recognise this as a right, but we also recognise that people have deeply held feelings about same-sex marriage. Certainly, as most of the audience, I have no doubt, would be aware, I supported same-sex marriage I think the approach that Kevin Rudd has taken is the right approach to indicate to Australians that if we are re-elected, that we will be voting in, that he will introduce a bill into the House. I'll be voting in support of that. I think we also know that if you don't have bipartisan support for issues like this, it's unlikely to succeed. And I find that deeply disappointing. Last time around, I listened carefully to the views of people across Corangamite, and I came to the conclusion that overwhelmingly people supported same-sex marriage. I voted in favour of it. I will continue to do what I can to see legislation passed. But if Tony Abbott is not prepared to enable a conscience vote by the Liberal Party, I think Jayden's right that it's very, very unlikely that such legislation will pass.
Now, Buddy Rojek, Independent, wanted to have a say on this issue.
Yes, I fully support gay marriage. I've got a very close friend from my girlfriend who basically close to committing suicide. His parents were very, very religious from a very, very prominent family, and his cousin was gay and his uncle does not speak to him anymore. Now, this guy's come out and he is happy. His dark paintings are now quite nice and his parents are accepting it. I was disendorsed by Palmer because of my views on gay marriage. The religious right made a big noise.
Before we go to a break, Lloyd Davies from the Greens.
It's important to recognise that same-sex marriage is not just about marriage. There are 12-year-old kids out there who are really, really struggling with their sexual identity, and every single day that goes by where Abbott or the Liberal Party candidates or anyone else who questions the right of people to be able to get married is extremely damaging to these kids, and they are really, really facing it tough, and there is a high prevalence of suicide thoughts in young adults who are questioning their sexual identity. So it's extremely important we recognise the importance of our leaders in this.
Thank you, Lloyd. It's BayFM's 2013 Federal Election Forum from Market Square Shopping Centre with the candidates for Corangamite here. We'll take some questions from the floor, written questions with our senior journalist Victoria Webb-Taylor in just a few minutes here at BayFM.